In the beginning, humanity walked in perfect fellowship with God. He was not distant or unknown. He walked with us, spoke with us, loved us deeply. There was no barrier, no confusion. Man held a sacred position, created in God's image and enjoying a personal, loving relationship with the Creator. But temptation crept in. The desire for more knowledge, more power, more than what God had given led to the first act of disobedience. Humanity ate from the tree, and from that moment forward, the world was never the same. Over time, just as in today's world, people began replacing the true God with idols and false gods of the earth creations of their own hands, hearts, and imaginations. They delighted in their independence and forgot their maker. Generations rose up who never knew the real God, never heard his voice, never felt his presence, because their parents had traded truth for tradition, holiness for habit, and reverence for rebellion. God gave many warnings, yet they were ignored, mocked, and tossed aside. Then the flood came. Only Noah and his family, who walked in obedience, were saved. After the flood, Noah taught the new generations God's laws and commands. But as the population grew, so did their pride. They remembered God's judgment and resented him for it. Instead of worshiping, they rebelled, rising up under Nimrod to build a kingdom without God, reaching toward heaven with their own hands. God's response was to scatter the people and confuse their language. The effects of that rebellion are still with us today. Pagan traditions tied to Nimrod's world, like the festivals of Easter and Christmas, have been repackaged and labeled as Christian, but they are rooted in deception. The world has continued in this cycle, forgetting the Creator, creating false religions, and redefining truth. At one point, God's people had a sacred community, a place for like-minded believers to live by God's commandments. Anyone from any background could join this people by choosing to walk in obedience under the shade of God's law. But the people wanted a king. God warned them, kings would rule with greed, seek power, and lead the people into destruction. Still, they insisted, and just as prophesied, the kings led Israel astray. Even today, many who call themselves believers are scattered, living by man-made traditions instead of God's eternal commandments. Yeshua warned us, Israel would once again be destroyed, and the people would stray just like in the days of Noah. And so it happened. Today, what was once a holy gathering of God's people is now broken. The remnant, those few who still keep God's commandments and remember his Sabbath, are scattered across the earth like hidden gems in a sea of confusion. Modern Israel, though called holy, often mirrors the ways of the world. From massive gay pride parades in Tel Aviv to the rise of secularism, nightlife, and lawlessness, the sacred calling has been drowned in compromise. Most Jews today, like many Christians, only show up for the commanded feast days or holidays, but don't walk in the fullness of God's law. Christians, on the other hand, often cling to three major pagan holidays, Easter, Christmas, and Sunday, worship replacing God's appointed times with man's traditions. Yet there is hope. There remains a remnant, a small but faithful people who have not bowed to the systems of this world. They reject false traditions, pagan feasts, and mystic teachings like the Kabbalah or Talmud, choosing instead to live by the pure commandments of God and the teachings of the Messiah, Yeshua. Jesus said, "If you would enter life, keep the commandments." He did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it, to show us how to live it. The narrow path to eternity is still open, but few find it. It's walked by those who honor God's Sabbath, keep his appointed feasts, follow his commandments, and live according to his word, not the traditions of men. The call today is the same as it was in the days of Noah, of Nimrod, of Yeshua. Come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. Will you be part of the remnant? Will you choose truth over tradition? The time is short, and the road is narrow, but it leads to life.